So in part one, we used Project Assist to help us build the framework of Eyelet Street. This was to create a road string for the main road, followed by road edge connection or string controls for the left edge and the right edge, and then an additional saw cut control. In this particular video, we're going to be creating road 1. And road 1, as you can see, has an alignment which will represent the crown, and the extent of it is shown there. We also have an intersection which will be created for us, and on the south side we have the custom curb return alignment being applied, so we'll be looking at that very shortly. Further along road 1, we have a small amount of widening on this particular corner, and to assist us with that we have positioned an alignment, so the extent of the 3% crossfall will be projected out onto this particular alignment. Lastly, we've then got an alignment for the boundary. Now we can use this a couple of ways, and we'll see that very shortly, but we can either have a boundary code applied on this alignment, or we can restrict the batter of our design to this particular alignment. So we'll have a look at that. Before we do that, let's have a look at the template. So this is the template that's going to be applied. Fairly straightforward. The boundary code, as we've put in here, the BDY code is actually applied in the settings, so the software will actually look for the BDY code and look to utilize that in association with the alignment that we have positioned in the drawing. Let's run Project Assist. So the AI goes through and has a look at the alignment naming, and then tries to determine what each alignment usage type should be applied. So yes, road 1 is going to become a road string. It's also very important because two road strings, when they connect, will form an intersection. So really road 1 can only ever be a road string. The road 1 batter extents alignment that we reviewed earlier is going to have a boundary line type assigned to it. So this means, as you'll see very shortly, we can determine a couple of things with that. If you're creating any kind of widening or edge control, then by default you would always pick road edge connection or string control. If your alignment represents a network string, i.e. a curb return or a cul-de-sac, you will always pick road edge connection or string control, because it's actually doing two things. It's controlling the edge of bitumen, but it's also becoming its own string control in its own right. Let's click on confirm. So just a tip for you, if you have a lot of alignments in your project and you don't want to be sort of scrolling through the form all of the time, you can go to the tools pull down and you click on alignment list. So any alignments that you have in the project, this is just a neat way of being able to see them within the workflow manager. So the ones that we're interested in are just these 4 here, but if I click on any particular one of the cells, we get jumped down to that particular area within the form. So if you're finding you've got a lot of alignments, this can be a nice way of managing that list whilst you're in the workflow manager. So road 1 will become a road string, and we're going to apply our road 6 meter template. The boundary line control, as we've got here, is basically this alignment, and we're saying, look, add a boundary alignment as a max batter offset, which means that the batter will be applied to our template but will be restricted by this particular alignment, meaning that we may have varying slopes on the batter. Further down, we've got the road edge connection or string control for the EB widen, and all we want to happen here is for the edge of bitumen to be positioned onto that alignment. We don't want to adjust the elevations in any way manually, which would be the one underneath, so we're going to use the horizontal control. Lastly, we've got the curb return. So let's have a quick look over here. So there's a few things you can actually do with the curb return. The first thing you should make sure that you do is always check this button. And if you're finding that it's not associated with your particular road, such as in this case road 1, you can click on this button to disassociate and reassociate to road 1. It's important that it's associated to the side road. We'll discuss these other options a little bit later on, but for the time being we're just going to use the auto template. Aside from that, there is going to be a curb return applied on the north side of the intersection, and by default we will apply a 10 meter radius to that particular curb return. So we're going to leave that as 10, and we'll discuss these other options as we review the project later on. Let's click compute. We're going to provide a thread. We're going to close down the PDF. So as you can see, the Kerb returns have both been formed, 10 meters on the north side, and then the custom has been used on the south side. We have also got our widening being applied to our road. So this is very simple. This is just a design variation that's being added, as we can see here, telling the software to position the LEB onto the alignment and maintain the crossfall through that particular area where the alignment exists. And also, in addition, we've got the batter. So by and large, the batter actually maintains its 1-in-1 slope. But as you can see here, due to the vertical design that's being applied, the batter is actually being restricted on the left-hand side by our alignment. So we're maintaining 1-in-1, but it mustn't go past that particular alignment. And actually, to see this in cross-section, we'll just open up a cross-section window and just review a cross-section around about this point. You can see that because the alignment has been added in, that slope has been pulled back to 1-in.42. So it's done what we've asked. Now you're in a position to begin designing. So the framework has been set out for us, and we can begin to look at the next steps.